Hey everybody, it's Army Princess here and welcome back to my channel. So I am going to answer a question for you all that I think is a pretty good question actually. I just received it recently, but I actually had it written down in my book of topics to do as YouTube videos for my Military Mondays. And so since this person asked me this question, I was like, well, now is a good enough time as ever to answer the question. So if you want to see what it is, keep on watching. Welcome to my life as I live it. I'm Army Princess, the mother, wife, and soldier, and I want to share this journey with you. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe now so you don't miss a moment of it. Okay, so as you all know, I am a U.S. Army soldier. I've been in the military for over 11 years now, and I love to share my experiences with you all. With that being said, you want to make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload from me, because I do upload military videos at least once a week, and you want to be part of the Army Princess platoon, okay? Okay, so let's get into the video. So this particular subscriber asked me about living on base versus living off base. And so I thought this was a really good question, because I'm like, if I joined the military and it was my very first duty station, where would I live? So let me break it down for you all, because my situation was totally different when I joined the military. So there's two different situations. Actually, this could be broken down to a lot of different situations, but I'm going to try to categorize it to make it easier for everybody to understand. So let's talk about my situation, which is kind of like, I would say, probably a very common situation for most people joining the military. So when I joined the military, I was number one, single. I was not married. I did not have any kids. So I was single. The second thing that makes my situation unique is that I went overseas. So usually, most likely, especially if you're single and you go overseas as your first duty assignment, you will live on base. So you don't have the option to live off base. Single soldiers, E4 and below, usually most likely live in the barracks. So that rules out whether you can live on and off base, period, anyway. Now let's put me in a second situation. Second situation, I joined the military. I'm either married or have kids, either or, it doesn't make a difference, married or have kids, but I'm E4 and below. If I'm in the United States, I will probably get the option to either live on base or off base. If I'm overseas, I will probably live on base in housing. Usually, pretty much any overseas place you go, especially E4 and below, you'll live on base. So that rules out whether you're going to live on base or off base. Overseas, I suggest anybody first duty station live on base, period. There are certain circumstances where I would say live off base, but not as your first duty station overseas. Definitely not. I would say live on base, and I'll talk about that later on in the video, why I think people should live on base, especially in their first duty station. Third scenario. So scenario number 3, I am a E4 and below, my first duty station. I'm either married or have kids. That doesn't matter. That doesn't change anything. If you're married or you have kids, you will not be in the barracks, so that's why it doesn't change anything. I'm in the United States. I'm CONUS. So CONUS means you're in the United States, to include Hawaii. That is included in the United States. So now I get the option if I want to live on base or off base. My advice as Army Princess, a U.S. Army soldier who's been in the military 12 years now, this year made 12 years, that's why I said over 11 years, I would suggest you live on base, and here is why. So as a new soldier, you are just familiarizing yourself with the military. You are just kind of figuring out what your schedule is going to be, where you're going to be working, what your daily routine is going to be, what PT is going to be like, what the end of your workday is going to look like. And you may be put in a location that you've never been to. It's probably pretty much about a 90% chance you're going to go to a duty assignment that you've never been to. And so to live off base, it's just going to make it a little bit harder. It's definitely doable. You can do it. But I would say to familiarize yourself with the military, what military bases have to offer, what the military is like, and just to make it overall easier on yourself, live on base. You're going to be closer to your job, you know what I mean? In the morning when you have to get up at 4:30 to be at that PT formation at 5, you don't have to come from across town. You don't have to worry about traffic. You don't have to add all these other things that could make it harder for you to adjust to military lifestyle. On top of that, the housing on base is free. It's not really free, but it's free. So when I say that, what happens is you sign a contract to live on base. The Army will put money in your paycheck to pay for your rent on base. So basically, they give you the money in your paycheck and you pay the housing office. You don't have to worry about coming out of your pocket to pay your rent because they know how much it costs to live on base and they're going to give you that exact amount and you put it directly towards your rent. So you don't have to, that's other expenses that you don't have to worry about. And it just, I like it, especially if you have kids. You know, your kids can go to school on base. They can go to daycare on base. They have a commissary, which is like the grocery store. The PX, which is like your Walmart or whatever. Everything is right there. Everything is accessible to you right there on base. Now, if you go to your second duty station and you say, I don't like living on base, or it wasn't for me, or I want to buy a house, you know what I mean, in the local surrounding area, then now you know what to expect as far as your work schedule, kind of, you know what I mean? You know what PT is going to be like. You can kind of gauge how far it's going to take you from your house to get on base and to drop your kids off. It's not so much coming at you brand new as a new soldier in the military. Now, my situation and my scenario is a little bit different because they asked me, did I live on base or did I live off base? My situation kind of makes up a fourth scenario. And this is not really a common scenario for most people, especially their first duty assignment. Maybe after your first and you get married, it'll be your scenario. But my situation, or the fourth scenario, is that I'm dual military, which means that me and my spouse are in the military. With that being said, me and my spouse get that money that I was telling you guys about that they put in your paycheck for rent. So whether we live on base or live off base, both of us get what's called BAH, Basic Allowance for Housing. We get money in our paycheck to pay for rent. So if you think about it, Gabriel and I can live on base and rent a house and give it back to the military, basically give the money back to the military. Or we can live off base, buy a house. Both of us are getting that money from the military, paying our mortgage, and in the long run, we're buying a house. We get something out of it. And that's what we chose to do. But like I said, if I was brand new in the military and just joining and I was single, I would definitely live on base. If I had a child, or if I was married and my husband was not in the military, I would definitely live on base because I need to get used to military life. We've been doing this rodeo for a long time now. Like I said, this is my 5th duty station, and so it doesn't really make any sense for us to live on base and give money back to the military that they're giving us for either our mortgage or our rent. So we could have either rented a house, which was an option. So that is another option for people who don't want to buy. So say our rent wherever we live is $1,000. They're going to give me $1,000, and they're going to give him a little bit more because he's higher ranking than me. So say he gets $1,200 and I get $1,000. And we find a place that to rent, and our rent is only $1,000. We have now this extra $1,200 to pay for cable, to pay for internet, to pay for car note, to pay for insurance, to pay for all of the other things that it takes to take care of a house. That's the beauty in us not living on base, because if we would have lived on base, my $1,000 and his $1,200 would have went right back to the military, and we wouldn't have anything to show for it. But with us buying a house, we bought a house. My $1,000 is going towards rent, and the $1,200 that he has is going to all of our other daily monthly expenses, and we get a house out of it. You know what I mean? In 30 years, so when we decide to retire, we have a house to come back to. So even if we PCS next year, we go to somewhere else, we'll rent out our house like we did in Georgia, and we'll always have that house to come back to. So I say all that to say that living on base, living off base depends on your specific scenario. It depends on what you're comfortable with, as far as, you know, it's your first duty station, you don't know really anything about the military, and you decide to live off base. If you choose to do that, that's on you. You're more than very welcome to. Just make sure you're comfortable with it. Make sure you're not in an area like here in DC area where the housing market is off the chain as far as expenses. If it's your first duty station and you fall into the option of either you're married or you have kids as well and you can live on or off base, I definitely suggest that you live on base for your first duty assignment so that you can get used to the military. I hope this answered that person's question. I did reply back in the comment section and kind of gave them the short version of this, but I wanted to definitely make sure I came on and, you know, spread my knowledge with you all. Now, this is just my opinion. This is just what I've been through, my experiences. You don't have to follow any of it if you don't want to. Do you, boo? Do you? But from my experiences and my opinion, I think living on base, especially your first duty station, is very good because it gets you acclimated to military life and what all is offered on base. Because there are a lot of things that are offered on base that you might benefit from, like pools and swimming and on base activities. Just, they have a lot to do on base. So I challenge you to look into those things, figure it out, see what's best for you, and hopefully you have a great transition into the military.
Hey, if you want to see more videos like this, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like, what are you waiting on?